What's up, YouTube? This is Reaper here. We're back with a brand new video where we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons, what's good on offense, what's good on defense with my buddy, my friend, Mr. Pathfinder Gaming. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Rebirth. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know you and I have been on quite a great journey going into Cosmic Crucible, climbing up the rankings together, working with each other, trying to help each other out. It kind of came to my mind that, there's a lot of players in Platinum and Diamond that watch our content and are like, that's great, but I can't do that. I don't have that team. So I think as a follow-up to the video I talked about, like really breaking down Cosmic Crucible efficiency, I really wanted to kind of create something that kind of talks more about the teams individually and what are the pros and cons, whether you're choosing them for offense or defense, and just kind of have an open discussion and kind of move on from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Let's do it.
let's do the first team. Let's start with let's do the easy one, right? Let's talk about Masters of Evil. So what's your take on the team? Like, where are you finding the most use for them? And kind of take it from a point of it maybe not being complete even.
Yeah, so for me, Masters of Evil is just an offensive juggernaut, right? I mean, they can beat everything that's available right now. And they could do it even without Moonstone, although Moonstone is kind of the linchpin of the team for focus, right? Like she's the one that gives all the extra focus. But even without, like I was using Falcon or Emma and still beating Wakanda fairly easily. It just took a little bit more turns.
Yeah, so if you're a platinum diamond player and you're still waiting to unlock Moonstone, you don't have to skip trying to use this team. You can find uses. Where are you finding the most success with that foursome?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just beating Wakanda. I know a lot of people are getting a lot of use out of beating Unlimited or beating Gamma. But for me and the matches that I'm fighting, Darkhold just doesn't cut it anymore against like War Dogs. So I'm using Masters of Evil against Wakanda almost exclusively at this point, but they can beat anybody.
All right, that's good to know as well. So I think for diamond players or platinum players that have still yet to unlock Moonstone, you can still get value out of the fourth. And pretty much a consensus here is we're saying offense.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just too good to pass up using there.
All right, let's move on to the next team. I think let's cover. It'll be a nice little tricky one. Let's talk about Hero Asgard. So here, Asgard, I think, climbing through the ranks, and I've seen some of my alliance mates that have posted their CC defenses or their opponent's defenses, and I'm seeing this all over the place. So what is your take on this team? And where would you use it at this point?
This is actually a really interesting one now because of the New Warrior rework. So before the New Warriors were kind of like the scrap heap of our roster a little bit, and you could use like Star Lord with the New Warriors and Spider Man to like easily dismantle Hero Asgard. I still think they probably could do it, but the turn order is a little out of whack now with the bonus speed that they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be interested to see if maybe it makes a comeback on defense. Because before, right? I mean, we were using Eternals on it, or we were using that new Warrior team, or we were using other stuff, and maybe it was getting like 83, 50, in the 50 and 60 range. But I'd be interested to see if like maybe there's a place for it again on defense. I don't think they're good enough on offense. I think they're too slow.
Yeah, I think they're too slow. I think some people are using them for potentially Tangle Web back in the Age of X because of the Heimdall focus, giving them a chance to still hit Weaver even with charges. I do know a lot of people like to use Bionic Avengers against this and still get a really crazy efficiency. I think when you're looking at offense versus defense, I think my take on this is probably neither.
Yeah.
Just because it's so easy to kill fast that you're giving your opponent an efficiency advantage right out the gate. What's your final rating on this one?
Yeah, I wouldn't use them on defense, and I just don't think they're good enough to be used on offense right now. Um, if you have a massive team, I mean, I would put Bionic Avengers on defense just because they're big for raid. So maybe if you have a massive team, it's worth looking at. And really, it's just all about seeing how it does. If it doesn't do what you want it to do, then pull it back off. But for me, it's a no.
Yeah, I'm at this point, it's a cleanup team. All
Yeah.
right, let's move on to Rebirth. All right, I'll let you take this one to start.
So Rebirth is an interesting one. If you find yourself in Platinum or Diamond, but you spent on the team, Rebirth can be a tricky team to beat on defense. With Captain Carter and Captain America bouncing back and forth, if you allow Captain Carter to get to her ult and then again get to her special, it can really cause some efficiency nightmares if you don't take the right team into it and really not play around with it. Have you found similar results on big rebirths?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be a problem, especially the bigger they get, and the more they can absorb some of the hits. When you start getting into like the 7 red Peggies, where you could bring in a Secret Avengers, Kestrel Shang, but something's still going to go wrong where they start spreading the buffs, and then you're literally trying to kill one for one, and they just keep rehealing in between. It take forever, and then you come back, you look at your efficiency score, and you're like, "Crap, what just happened?"
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they're strong, and I think when we look at teams coming out like Invaders, where they have very similar mechanics to Rebirth, I can see that also being a component to this as well. Um, things can beat it fast. I mean, like you look at an Eternals, they could, but most people need Eternals elsewhere, so they're taking that risk. I'm probably more of a fan of breaking this team up though, and using the
Yeah.
pieces to help boost some other different teams that you can create. Um, but overall, it's not a bad defense for Platinum or Diamond, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that comes to mind is like Winter Soldier with like Hydra Underworld, or Captain America with like Gamma.
Yes.
Just putting in efficiency stalling or efficiency killing characters like those guys could absolutely wreck um, somebody's day with the efficiency points they lose.
Oh, 100%. And I think I've even seen a build with like Captain America, Kestrel, Sam, Carter, and somebody else that look kind of nightmarish. So you can come up with some creative things. But I would say if we were going to rate it offense versus defense, I'd probably say defense only. To me, it's a sack team on offense.
Yeah, I would agree,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So all right, so the next team we want to discuss is kind of a tricky one of those 50-50 teams where, it's very controversial where you should put them or how they should be used, and that is Infinity Watch. So obviously, I mean, they have a lot of practical applications. Obviously, the Safeguard, one of those mechanics that they added into the game back when they first came out that makes it very hard to strip any type of positive effects from them. It's starting to become one of the premier positive buffs you can have in the game, to the point where they had to give out trauma in order to counter something so powerful. So when you look at something that has such sustain for as long as they have, and the sustain power and their versatility on offense, where do you really like to see them?
Yeah, I think for me, them being on defense almost always gets me a less than 8350 win, or a very low 83, like 52 type of score. And that can make the difference between a match. I mean, they can literally cause you to win the match because it just takes so long
Hmm.
to take them out, especially depending on what you use, right? So, I mean, the popular counter is like Young Avengers. Well, that's a very inefficient match. And things can even go south in that match. I know they have for me. I know they have for you. Um, and the teams that they counter on offense, while it's nice, I feel like there's other counters to those things.
Yeah.
So for me, it's an easy put them on defense and enjoy having at least one inefficient match for your opponent.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for this season specifically, I think defense is probably a better place for Infinity Watch this season. But I think from a platinum diamond perspective, you got to kind of look at what you have for options. If you can afford to put them on, and you feel like you have enough on offense to still get the job done and clear the rooms you need to clear, then 100% I would recommend defense. But if you don't are not in that position, you may still want to keep them on offense. So I think our verdict here is both.
Yeah, they're very good. They've really lasted a lot longer than I think we originally thought they would.
All right, let's go into another interesting one. Secret Avengers with Shang-Chi and Fury.
Man, Fury rework, I mean, that alone needs to be talked about. Him giving death proof on his special, his minions absolutely slapping now. Um, for me, they're so versatile on offense because of how fast they are. And with Fury giving them speed up, they just become even faster. And so with Kestrel and the pings, Capsium giving the turn meter, uh, and Sharon being able to stun, Shang-Chi being able to just slap around people with his ult and rewind them. They're just so good on offense. And a lot of times I don't even use the full team. I just plug in characters that I need in certain areas. What do you think about that?
Oh, I'd agree. I mean, if you think about like what people are doing against Unlimited with Dorm and Secret Avengers Kestrel, or Tangle Web with Secret Avengers Kestrel against Darkhold, and being able to be versatile enough to beat all those different varieties of teams, to include the Rebirth, the Bionic Avengers, and even the Young Avengers, or people are using this against. A little RNG with the Kate Bishop lines, but it can get the job done. Axeman, Uncanny has so many different versatile applications. Any of the Doom teams, I think this is pretty unanimous. I think this is an offense only team.
Absolutely. I think that they're just too good, and give you too many efficiency options to not be on offense.
All right, let's go into the next one. Let's talk about Young Avengers since we just brought it up recently with the Infinity Watch talk. Um, This to me is another one of these 50-50 teams. They can be a pain on defense, but they have a lot of versatile use on offense. We saw with Age of X, them being able to beat Wakanda, still beat Axemen with all the buffs. Even today, like, people bring into room 4 with, if they put anything other than UX, you can bring YA and they're going to clean it up pretty quick. If Wakanda's not in 6, they still get the job done. But I've heard stories of them actually winning room 6. So, people are using him against IW on offense, but then on defense, because of all the other defensive things that are there, you kind of get stretched towards the end on what you need to use against them. What do you say? What do you think on this?
Yeah, I've had so many times where facing them where they're on defense, where I brought in something like the Eternals, and they just barely hang on, and then they immediately spring back up with Squirrel Girl's special. Or I'm using them on offense, like against an Infinity Watch, and they barely can't beat something. But if you take them in to the right team, and if your opponent doesn't take them seriously, they could get you a win, or they could get you the win on Crucible if you use them on offense. To me, they're good. They're good on both.
Yeah, they're good on both. I mean, offensively, they can get you some key wins. Defensively, they're probably not going to hold, but they're going to zap efficiency very similar to Infinity Watch. So I think our rating here is definitely on both. Whatever your comp looks like, what you're going to pick, you got to go with what you feel best about. So let's do another one of those 50-50 teams, since those seem to be very tricky when people are trying to decide whether to put them on defense or offense. And now let's talk about Gamma. Another prime example of a 50-50 team that has value on both. Um, what do you think on this?
Man, Gamma's my favorite team. Uh, I love using my favorite teams on offense, and they can be surprisingly good against some of the biggest teams in this game. I've had moments where my Red Hulk by himself will be the last man standing, and he will just 1v5 whatever my opponent has. I did that against an Unlimited. I did that against a Darkhold. He's just so powerful. In my opinion, probably the best horseman, if not one of the best characters in this game right now.
Yep.
On defense, if you don't kill Red Hulk and normal Hulk or She Hulk, they can immediately pop back up and get wins. I've seen plenty of great players go into a Gamma and barely kill Red Hulk, and the rest of the Gamma team just immediately springs back up and just starts slapping them around, even without Red Hulk. So for me, I think it's about where you're more comfortable in using them, and there are good counters against Gamma, but in the platinum, diamond type of leagues, they could absolutely get you a win.
Oh, 100%. And I think placement matters too. I think how you set up the opponents, because if you keep Green Hulk and Red Hulk away from each other, um, you actually get a higher chance of winning your matchup, just because like the Star Lord Omega counter alone is not enough damage output to kill both if they're not adjacent.
Hmm.
So that's always a nice little tricky thing there. But I think it just depends. If you have an answer for unlimited that doesn't involve gamma, this is a defensive team. If you don't, this is an offensive team.
I think for me, I lean more towards them being on defense because the more you can stretch your opponent thin by having a team like this on defense, I think the better off you're going to have of winning yourself. So I would lean more in the defensive category with them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're probably a better defensive team, but I think, that decision comes into it with this next team. What do you do with Darkhold?
What do you do with Darkhold Reaper?
Well, it's a good question. I think there are a lot of question marks around Darkhold with the new rework to the rooms and the nerf on Darkhold across the board. I still think that this team is, no matter how you swing it, is an efficiency suck. It's either going to force an apocalypse hybrid, or some kind of a tangle web type comp, or there's other things out there, or even risk gamma against it. And it can be gamma can beat this. So I think regardless of how you look at it, it's an efficiency killer. With its now nerfed ability to get through war dogs, it may be relegated to a defensive team at this point.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Darkhold on defense for a while, especially when the full 5 piece of Masters of Evil came out. They immediately went on defense for me. I think that if you don't play it right, or even if you do play it right, things can go south because of their resistance, the resistance factor of that team. They're just so good, and with the less stats, it's just difficult to say. Do they beat Wakanda still? Maybe if you're punching down.
Yep.
And then who else do you go up against? You can't really mirror Darkhold right now. It's not a very efficient fight. You're not really gonna be able to stand up to an unlimited efficiently. They're not gonna beat the Tangled Web team very efficiently. So I would rather them gain me some efficiency than lose me some efficiency.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think at this point, with the changes to the rooms, I think it's pretty, for me, it's defense. All right, let's move on to the next one because it's another one I've seen on both. It started off being on defense, but obviously I think more people are using now on offense, and that is Deathseed. So I know for myself, Deathseed's a lot of fun to play against. I've had a lot of success using them against like some of the non-Red Hulk Gamma teams. They work really well against Rebirth teams. The Hydra Underworld is where probably primarily where everyone's using them. But now there's like Apocalypse or Dorm comps with Deathseed that can also take out teams like Darkhold or along those lines. So, what do you feel about Deathseed? How do you like to use them?
I think Deathseed is just so good. They're so fast on offense with Magneto going first and applying blinds and getting that double tap from Dark Beast. Archangel can absolutely one shot a wide variety of characters. I think as the meta kind of starts to shift, if Hydra World stays on defense, it's an easy 83-68, 83-70 type of team. And if Hydra Underworld goes away, then I mean we could start to see Deathseed on defense again, which Deathseed can counter very well, and so does Infinity Watch. So it's one of those teams where I think that if you use them on offense, know where you're planning on using them, and you're going to get a very quick win if you know how to use them right. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, they could absolutely, ruin people's efficiency by just straight up killing people on defense.
Yeah, I think so.
I would lean offense though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think everything you said is absolutely spot on. I would also say offense. And that's going to bring us to another one of these teams that are really interesting. And I'm gonna kind of combine two into one here. So and what I'm talking about is Tangle Web, and Eternals. So I think prior to the room changes, Tangle Web for me was primarily on offense, as was Eternals, but there were also two separate teams.
Yep.
Now, if anyone's faced this team, it's supposed to be a team they put in the five that doesn't have a solid solution. so that when the new Warriors team comes out, people will be tempted to pick that team up. I know a lot of people may be looking to bring them on offense to potentially mirror this team, but you know, for me, knowing if people are going to put UX or Gamma and or Darkhold on defense, that's two counter teams gone just for one team. So how are you feeling about this? Like, how were you using Tangle Web and Eternals prior to the room change? And now what do you think you're going to do going into it?
Yeah, so Tangled Web and Eternals were both on offense for me. And the nice thing about them is that they were like you said, two separate teams, and you would fill in characters around them to make the counter work and make it more efficient. And with them possibly being a defensive team, I feel like the mindset has to be if you are putting them on defense, you need to make sure you have enough if your opponent does the same thing. And then if you have them on offense, you have to be prepared to have to use the mirror potentially and take an efficiency loss, but hope that because your opponent put two stellar teams on defense, that they are going to be less efficient in the other rooms and get you that win on efficiency. So I feel like it's it's almost it's like take your risk, right? Which
Yep.
risk do you want to take? Do you want to take the risk of not potentially full clearing? Or do you want to take the risk of I believe I can out efficiency my opponent if I keep them on offense?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of the play. I think myself, I'm planning to use it on offense just so I can have that versatility. And then, for people that put it on defense, I want to set my defense very specifically to punish them for doing that.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the route I'm going to go. And that also might include I put game on defense as well as Darkhold just to be able to throw that little punch right back for doing something so mean by putting this Scopely force team into room 5.
Yeah. Uh, I'm with you there. I think right now I'm leaning keeping them on offense to just to have the versatility. Um, because if you can't clear, you're probably not going to win. So that's my hope is that you put them on defense and you're not going to be able to clear me.
So let's touch. We're kind of coming down to the last few teams here, and then we're going to kind of summarize like a group of teams that because we can't go through every single one for the sake of time. Obviously, let's talk about Unlimited X-Men. I think this is pretty simple. I mean, Room 4 is designed to maximize this team. It's going to be an efficiency suck no matter how you look at it. X-Men just doesn't hold up. It's too easy to kill even with the revive once. I think it's pretty consistent that I think not just us, but everyone out there knows that this should be the primary defensive team that you put in for.
Yeah, you really have to be hyper efficient if you put them on offense. And I have found, at least where I'm at, that I can't be hyper efficient enough using unlimited on offense. Now, it could be different, in platinum and diamond leagues that you can be hyper efficient enough to use your unlimited to your advantage and just go full on offense and then put in all the efficiency sucking teams on defense. But for me, unlimited has to be in 4. Otherwise, my opponent gets to use the counter for them against something else.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. And I think it's very similar to Wakanda. War Dogs, Wakanda, OG Wakanda, however you want to say it. By the way, War Dogs versus OG Wakanda, they all have the Wakanda tag. So if somebody says, I have Wakanda here, don't respond and say War Dogs because they all are Wakandans. So let's just clear that up. Tomato, tomato, right? So, with this team here, I think the big thing is I have seen people. I think another content creator, Juicy, who's also experimented putting them in a room not in 6, and putting a team that makes it hard to counter without the charge mechanic, and had success. And I think people forget like Wakanda is still a tough team to beat by themselves and try to catch somebody off guard because they put YA on defense. So how do you feel about this? Do you still primarily think this should still go in 6, or do you like, the idea of gambling and putting them in a different room?
I think it comes down to if you don't have them in 6, I'm free to use my Masters of Evil wherever I feel like using them. And
Hmm.
right now, that's the best team to counter Wakanda, and it's very efficient. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to put Darkhold in 6, okay, I'm going to use Masters of Evil on it, and I'm going to have just as easy of a time as if your Wakandans were there. Hey, I'm going to put Unlimited in 6, same result. So by having Wakanda in 6, I'm basically telling you you have to do either Darkhold and hope that it's enough, or you have to use Masters of Evil here. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that by you forcing your opponent to use their best stuff against specific rooms, it leaves the door open for you having some plays in other rooms. I think that's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think they're better at 6. You know, MOE is a very dangerous team to have to defend against. So if we can keep it in one place and try to get them somewhere else, I think that's the no-brainer way to go. All right. We have one more team to cover, and then we're just going to group a couple. This like highlight a couple teams and just get your overall thoughts on which some of those teams, and we'll do kind of a quick rapid fire. Um, New Warriors. So obviously a big rework to them. New characters coming. We know about Firestar, and then we know there's a fifth to be named later. And they look like they're designed to take out Eternals and Tangled Web. Um, but what about in their current state?
So I think right now, New Warriors can be used to get very efficient wins on teams like Young Avengers, or maybe a team like a Rebirth potentially, right? Because they go so fast, they apply so many debuffs. Cloak's minus 15% speed bar when he gives offense down. It makes some of those fights that might have taken a little longer not take very long. I think that looking a little bit to the future, thinking like the next month or two, we might, we should be getting Quicksilver at some point. He's going to be very plug and play. We're looking at a fifth or a fourth and a fifth for the New Warriors. I think you're right. It's a sell us a solution to the Tangled Web Eternals. Um, it'll be interesting to see if that team still stays there. But I think on offense, you can plug them in with some other good characters, and they can do some surprising things, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think the team of 3 had already shown, like, I think, they won me a fight that I wasn't sure I could clear, because their rework was so good that it instantly just changed the outcome of the fight. The assist off death pool, the speed, the offense down, rewind from the special from Cloak. We have Firestar that's going to come out, and she's going to be able to flip effects. So if a team spawns with offense down, she's going to open with that, and then Cloak's going to follow with the ult and make them all rewind.
Yep.
It's going to be a really interesting mechanic. But I think the 3 in their current state, I think you can get some things done against some really key teams. So when I think about like Apocalypse and how you can pair these 3 with him together, you might be surprised what you can accomplish with some of these other meta defenses.
Absolutely agreed. I think they're going to become one of the premier offense teams soon.
Yep. All right. So kind of lastly, I just kind of wanted to group a couple teams together and just kind of give you kind of your rapid fire. So we have Hydra Underworld, we have Black Order, any of the X-Men versions, and A Force and Weapon X. So when I bring those up, like, how are you utilizing any one of those, or which one stands out to you as one you want to focus on as a strong recommendation for the viewers?
I think the A Force Weapon X, there are characters in there that can be vital plug and play characters on offense. A lot of the rest of those teams, Uncanny needs to be very big, but they can catch people off guard if Storm can get her ult off. If Storm can get a charged ult off, it can do a lot of damage. Black Order, that's a hard pass for me right now. They are not good enough on offense or defense. Axemen, they've fallen off so much, so quickly that I don't see them being useful anywhere. Hydra Underworld's a fascinating one. They get hard countered by a few things, but if you let them take turns, they can absolutely demolish you quickly with how hard they hit. So Hydra, Underworld, A Force, Weapon X, those are all good plug and play
Mhm.
offense or defense characters, really, because they're all fast and they all do interesting things like ability block, defense down. Omega Red has trauma. All of those things are good.
Yeah, I think most of those teams that we talked about, it's going to be more plug and play. I will say on Black Order, I think if you're a little lower down Platinum, I think that team can serve as your efficiency suck for others at a lower level. As you go up the charts, like upper Diamond, getting close to Masters, you'll never see Black Order. But if I do think at the lower levels, like that team could still be a good efficiency suck, to get the same effect we're talking about with Infinity Watch or YA, because I'm sure you're probably dependent on those characters for offense. So there's something to think about as like kind of a little disclaimer there. Like, don't write them off if you're at the lower end, but at the higher end, you will never see it.
Yeah,
Other
I
than
agree.
that, A Force has a lot of good plug and plays. Obviously, what you mentioned with Omega Red. And Hydra Underworld, I mean, we see what has happened as we learn what works well against it and what doesn't. So I think you could also look at the universe and say, well, what if we use him against the things that you knew it didn't work well against it? You might have an option on offense with that team. So it's something that I wouldn't be surprised that rears its head coming up in the future.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting time. We're in a very I feel like we're in a very hyper offensive meta right now. And I mean, with the characters that we know about, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think in our next follow up video that we do to this, we're going to talk about utility characters. We're going to do our own top 10 list together, and that's going to include top 10 utility characters for War or CC. And we're going to try to combine the two just to get an idea of like where you can get some ROI even from some older characters and where, you can get some value from things you wouldn't have thought of. And I think that'd be a nice video as well. But I did want to thank you for jumping on Pathfinder to do this video. Just wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to see like how we evaluate teams and why we do. So if you found that this helps out, please consider liking and subscribing. And, obviously you can stand around for the next video. But in the meantime, you can also check out Pathfinder. Where at, sir?
YouTube or Twitch, either's great. I love hanging out with people live though, so make sure to check me out on Twitch.
Yep. And you can follow the path to glory. All right. I appreciate you guys very much. I'll see you guys later. Peace.